Hello, welcome to News on NTA International. I'm Nancy Goody Anunihu. First, the headlines. Nigeria Police Force extradites former chairman of Pension Reform Task Team, Abdrashid Abdullahi Maina, to Nigeria from Niamey, Niger Republic. Nigeria Senate approves procurement and administration of COVID-19 vaccine in Nigeria. President of Court of Appeal insists on economic balancing and strict enforcement of existing laws to check standards of imported goods. Hello, welcome to details of the news. President Muhammadu Buhari has reaffirmed the commitment of his administration towards pursuing more diligently critical investment in people, especially the youth, most vulnerable and poorest members of society. Consequently, the creative and innovative recommendations by participants of the Senior Executive Course 42 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies will be studied and explored for implementation as soon as possible. This was at the 2020 Presidential Parley with the participants at the State House, from where correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The National Institute, Nigeria's Center for Reflection, Research and Dialogue, is undoubtedly the nation's apex think tank on policy and strategy. For the year 2020, population growth and human capital development challenges and opportunities was the focus of participants of the Senior Executive Course 42. President Muhammadu Buhari, who received the report of the research findings, described as pleasing their recommendations and implementation strategies. Many of such recommendations, he promised, would be considered to further enhance human capital development in the country.
I am personally delighted to observe that the National Institute is meeting its mandate as the nation's apex think tank. I congratulate you for your patriotic efforts. The contribution of the National Institute to human capital development at the strategic level over the years is worthy of commendation. Government will continue to support the Institute not only in the discharge of its mandate, but also in its avowed determination to become one of the top 3 think tanks in Africa before the year 2025.
And as a testimonial to his administration's commitment to human capital development, various programs, he said, have been put in place to equip Nigerians, particularly the youth, with requisite skills for employment, entrepreneurship, and wealth creation.
We have also recently introduced the 75 billion naira Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, of which 25 billion naira have been provided in 2021 budget. All of these are consistent with our policy of positioning the youth for strategic leadership in different fields of endeavor.
President Buhari, who takes pride in the progress made towards achieving food security in Nigeria, said tremendous efforts at reducing heavy dependence on the oil sector have also been intensified. Priority attention, he also said, will continue to be accorded to mining, entertainment, manufacturing, ICT, and labor-intensive industries towards generating millions of jobs for the teeming youth and able-bodied Nigerians. The Director General of the National Institute, Professor Habu Galadima, had expressed the conviction that many of the challenges facing Nigeria that are related to rapid population growth will be surmounted under President Buhari's watch by investments in human capital development.
We thank you for the enormous investments in the people of this country through highly commendable programs designed to take many Nigerians out of poverty. One can only imagine the magnitude of the outcomes if these investments were not made. We are grateful to God for providing this country with a strategic and purposeful leadership at this point of the nation's history.
The National Institute, Professor Galadima explained, is aware of the expectations of government and will do everything within the limit of its capacity and resources to meet those expectations. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And towards fighting corruption, former chairman of the Pension Reform Task Team, Abdurrashid Maina, has been extradited to Nigeria from Niamey, Niger Republic, by the Nigeria Police Force. Security correspondent Francis Fom reports.
Abdurrashid Maina was arrested on the 30th of November 2020 through the collaborative efforts of the operatives of the Nigeria Police Force, Interpol, Abuja, and their Nigerian counterparts. The team from the Interpol Nigeria, led by the Commissioner of Police, Garba Umar, having completed the necessary documentations, flew the wanted former pension boss, Maina, into Nigeria.
The Interpol is just back from Niamey, Niger Republic. Mr. Abdurrashid Abdullahi Maina is brought back to Nigeria, and we are acting under the instruction of the Inspector General of Police, whom the other law enforcement agencies applied to him for the extradition of the fugitive. And we have brought him back to Nigeria to face justice.
The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has applauded the transnational interagency collaboration that led to the successful arrest and extradition, and assures that necessary legal action will follow. In Abuja, Francis Fom, NTA News.
Government will continue to pursue an all-inclusive policy, particularly the 5% employment quota for persons with disabilities, to give hope for this category of Nigerians. On the occasion of the International Day for Disabilities, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, paid tributes to the efforts of many of them who are braving the odds. Kevin Ehunwaye reports.
For anyone who is physically challenged, life is tough. But setting aside a day to celebrate them gives hope that they are still important members of society. It is such hope Chinwo, Chinwike and others are leaning on to face life challenges.
The challenges we face most of the time is discrimination, both in our family and in peers, in the environment where we work.
Beyond the yearly ritual of marking International Day for Disability, the federal government is taking concrete steps in addressing the plights of these categories of people. That was re-echoed at this event put together by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
There is nothing a physically challenged person cannot do. It depends on the way you develop yourself and, of course, the interest you show in bettering your life condition.
The theme for this year is "Not all disabilities are visible." In Abuja, Kelvin Ehunwaye, NTA News.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has described calls in certain quarters for President Muhammadu Buhari to resign from office as playing politics with the nation's security. The minister stated this at a meeting with members of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria in Lagos, and Anthony Forson was there.
In the wake of the unfortunate killings in Borno State over the weekend, reports from certain quarters have called for President Muhammadu Buhari's resignation. It is in the light of this that the Information and Culture Minister, Lai Mohammed, says no amount of hysterical calls for President Buhari's resignation will prevent him from serving out his term.
Suicide bombers used to have a field day detonating their bombs and killing innocent people. Today, that is no longer the case. Detonating improvised explosive devices used to be a deadly tactic of Boko Haram. Today, that has changed. Boko Haram used to occupy territory, deposing and installing emirs and collecting taxes. That's no longer the case. These changes are not mere absences. They are part of the successes recorded by the military under this president. Therefore, calling on this president to resign every time there's a setback in the war on terror is a needless distraction and cheap political.
The minister maintained that what is infuriating certain persons or group of persons is that Boko Haram has been badly degraded and can only carry out cowardly attacks on soft targets like the one against defenseless farmers.
No nation, no matter how powerful, is immune to attacks on soft targets. 9/11 happened despite the prowess of the most powerful army in the world. Boko Haram's only oxygen is publicity, like all terrorists. That's why they've rushed to release a video, claim responsibility for the killing of the farmers. Please note that the video was shared to instill fear in the civil populace and maintain relevance in the eyes of their sponsors. And we urge Nigerians to continue to support the men and women in uniform, many of whom have made the supreme sacrifice to keep our nation safe.
To the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, he implored them to collaborate with government to check the menace of fake news and disinformation, which has the capacity to aggravate the nation's fault lines. President of the association and publisher of this day newspaper, Unuka Ogwabina, appealed for a frank and fruitful engagement with the minister.
We are all under siege. How do we find solutions to resolve it? How do we collectively, as a nation, resolve our insecurity crisis? I think that is where the media can work with you to find solutions and can deal with the crisis of our nation.
The meeting, however, went into a closed-door session. From Lagos, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
And as Nigeria continues to fight corruption with the setup of institutions and policies, experts at the 30th anniversary lecture of Code of Conduct Bureau believe that apart from sanctions, social and national values must not be neglected in order to see the end of graft. Haman Jabani reports that making corruption difficult to take place in the first place was also highlighted during the celebration.
The Code of Conduct Bureau was established 30 years ago in response to allegations of corruption against governments in the 60s up to 80s. It is to serve as watchdog, raise alarm and fish out individuals involved in graft. Its routine report mechanism indicates a person in a place of public trust who has accumulated unjustifiable wealth. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, said government has been instituting measures to fight corruption and will continue in that line.
The tension experienced in some parts of the country in terms of insecurity, such as insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, and recent waves of protests, were metamorphosed into routine of both government and private resources, and all offshoots of the corruption which we have left unchecked for time.
2 papers were presented at the lecture. The first is titled Impact of Public Sector Corruption on Socio-Economic Development in Nigeria by Professor Olufemi Mimiko, and the second, Code of Conduct Bureau, its establishment, structure, powers and mandate for effective fight against corruption by Professor Lawan Yusufari, I believe will serve as an eye-opener as well as roadmap for public officers who are expected to adhere to the provision of Code of Conduct for public officers to ensure stability in the socio-economic sector. 30 years in this business of fighting corruption, how has it been?
We can say that we are still on the journey, and we are hoping that we will reach there where we will have at least, if not free corrupt Nigeria, a Nigeria whereby corruption is negligible.
Discussants and other speakers are unanimous that there must be review of the country's social, national and moral values, while reward and punishment as well as social justice are strengthened. Haman Jabani, NTA News.
The President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dongban Menson, has called for economic balancing and strict enforcement of existing laws to ensure that products brought into the country are of good standard. She made the call when the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, led by the Executive Chairman, Mr. Babatunde Irukera, visited her to intimate her with the operations of the Commission. Judiciary correspondent Vera Chiwumba was there.
The fight to curtail the influx of substandard goods into the country has been a critical one. Even at that, Nigeria is seen as a dumping ground for low-quality products, littering the Nigerian market. The President, Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dongban Menson, raised concerns over the situation and challenged the regulatory agencies to live up to their responsibilities of protecting consumers and the nation's economy from the activities of some unscrupulous Nigerians and foreigners who deliberately produce low-quality products for countries like Nigeria. While emphasizing that the duty of the court is to declare what the law stipulates, she asked the Commission to ensure the enforcement of existing laws.
You have been called upon to clean up our society and our nation and uphold the dignity of every Nigerian by ensuring that if they feel disadvantaged, they have a place to go to.
The chairman of the commission said the commission is keenly looking forward to collaborating with the court in dispute resolution and ensuring knowledge on what judicial considerations are.
Decisions will either strengthen the institution and the framework for protection, or it will weaken the institution and the framework for protection.
The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, among other things, seeks to protect the interests and welfare of consumers. In Abuja, Viera Chumuba, NTA News.
This is news on NTA International. More reports when we return.
Latest entrant, latest technology. Welcome to Intel 4G LTE Advanced and experience super fast internet access today. Visit intel.com.ng or any of our stores in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt to get started. Intel. Live more.
The Council of Our Fathers.
Backing of the protests by criminals have resulted into violence, destruction of government and private properties, criminal release of prisoners, and the lynching and burning of policemen and some innocent persons. These developments is causing serious concern to all of us, and if care is not taken, it might lead the country to a point of no return.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going health now. The Senate has approved the procurement and administration of COVID-19 vaccine in Nigeria. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Onkwo reports that the legislators also urged government to make adequate provision of funds for it.
The week dominated by health issues. Chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, Senator Ibrahim Olodiegbe, drew the attention of the Senate to possible implications if Nigeria does not procure the COVID-19 vaccine. In concurrence with the prayers of the motion, the Senate urged government to treat the procurement with urgency.
The Senate is worried that the failure to administer vaccines to Nigeria will result in the country not being able to control the COVID-19 infection, and a possible ban on traveling by Nigerians may be instituted by countries around the world.
The idea that has been circulated that this thing has the tendency to change our genetic constitution is wrong. It has no way of intervening with the DNA.
Invite the Federal Ministry of Health, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Federal Ministry of Finance, and any other relevant government agency that is to present to it detailed plan approval. If we are not able to do it in the 2021 appropriation, then we have to prepare for a supplementary appropriation, because this is a matter of life and death.
Deliberations on health issues was sustained with the consideration and passage of the Mental Health and Substance Abuse Bill 2020.
Protect persons with mental health needs and establishment of National Commission for Mental and Substance Abuse Services for the effective management of mental health in Nigeria.
The Federal Medical Center Rigasa Kaduna State Establishment Bill was also passed. The establishment bills of the Federal College of Education Mangunu, Borno State, sponsored by Senator Abubakar Kyari. The Nigeria State University at Jokuta, Kogi State, sponsored by Senator Yakubu Oseni. And the Federal University of Technology, Ilaro, Ogun State, sponsored by Senator Solomon Adiola, passed second reading.
Borno North Senatorial District that has existed without a higher institution of learning, whether state of federal government.
Senate has received the 2021 appropriation bill of the Federal Capital Territory from the National Assembly. Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
U.S. healthcare system faces collapse as COVID-19 hospitalizations and daily deaths surge. Plus, historic Liberia war crimes trial begins in Switzerland. Joyce Ometu brings us details of these.
Americans are bracing for a surge in COVID-19 cases and fatalities following the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. The country witnessed 2,700 deaths in 24 hours, the highest number reported since April. The figure came as new hospital admissions exceeded 100,000. Reports have it that nearly 20,000 of those hospitalized are in intensive care units and at least 6,855 are on ventilators. Meanwhile, former French President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing has died at the age of 94 after contracting COVID-19. Giscard is remembered as a leader of modern France and was a champion of European integration in early 1970s. In the meantime, Moderna is planning to test the effects of its COVID-19 vaccine on children. Reports indicate that the trial will include administering 2 doses of vaccine within 28 days to 3,000 children aged 12 to 17. Figures published by Worldometers at 6 p.m. local time reveal that the number of fatalities from the pandemic has exceeded 1.5 million, with more than 65 million infections confirmed worldwide. Of these deaths, Nigeria accounts for 1,177. To other global news making rounds, the war crimes trial of former Liberian rebel leader Aliyu Kozaya for alleged atrocities committed during the civil war has begun in Switzerland. The defendant denied the charges, with his lawyer saying Kozaya, who was arrested in Switzerland in 2014, was not present in the area when the alleged crimes were committed. Meanwhile, pressure is mounting on the UK and EU negotiating teams to finalize a post-Brexit trade deal. The talks, which were held at the business departments in central London, saw the two sides urgently seeking compromises in key areas before current trading rules expire at the end of December. And that ends the segment. I am Joyce Ometu.
Now on to regional matters now. President Muhammadu Buhari has renewed his appeal to heads of state and government, especially in West Africa, to at all times respect their people and fully appreciate their support through purposeful and result-oriented leadership. Granting audience to the president of the Gambia, Adama Barrow, President Buhari said, in a democracy, people can do themselves a lot of favor by doing the right things. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo will bring us details of this report in our subsequent bulletins. Now to security, United Nations resident and humanitarian coordinator for Nigeria, Edward Callon, says the conflict in the northeast of the country is a regional problem that needs a regional solution. This is in reaction to the violent attacks of civilians in Zabamari, Borno State, which claimed several lives, when Callon visited families of the victims. Onengie Fineface reports.
The grave of victims of the violent attack when armed group killed tens of farmers harvesting rice farms in Zamabari community, some 15 kilometers outside Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, sparking outrage across the country and internationally.
It is very clear to us that the only solution to this crisis is peace. We should always prioritize prevention in whatever we are doing, development where feasible, and humanitarian assistance where needed. The whole world is in a shock, and the whole world is upset.
The resident and humanitarian coordinator of the United Nations, Edward Callon, met with immediate families of victims and community leaders who retold the incidents they described as unspeakable cruelty. Rural communities fear for their lives and that of their children now.
But now to go to farm is another problem for us.
They have not yet gone back to the farms and dread the harvest. Details of human losses are still coming in, and the search for missing people still ongoing. More bodies are being recovered. Farmers have also reported some of the missing women may have been abducted. Callon also met with Governor of Borno State, Babagana Umaru Zulum. Recent official data indicates that 4.3 million people are faced with food insecurity in Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states, and the number could reach up to 5.1 million over the lean season between June and August next year. Onengiye Fine Face, NTA News.
And on the sports scene, Flying Eagles ready for WAFU Zone B tournament. Kenema Bodike has more on sports update.
Nigeria's Flying Eagles are set to depart the nation for Benin Republic on Friday for the Under-20 WAFU Zone B competition, which kicks off on Saturday. Youth and Sports Development Minister Sanda Dare, who visited the team's camp in Abuja, charged the players to make the nation proud by winning the cup. Nigeria will play her first match in Group B against Cote d'Ivoire on Sunday. In athletics, 3,000 active and fun runners within Nigeria are to participate in the 3rd National Anti-Corruption Marathon billed for December 19, 2020 in Abuja. Addressing newsmen in Abuja, National Coordinator of the event, Jacob Onu, confirmed that a total distance of 21.03 kilometers will be covered by the participants, as winners will take home 1 million naira as prize.
If we do not kill corruption, corruption will kill us. Ours is to create more and more awareness on the danger of corruption to the existence of our citizens, especially the youth.
Meanwhile, recently elected President of Organization of Military Sports in Africa and Vice President of International Military Sports Council, Nigeria's Brigadier General Abdullahi Meikano has assumed office in Yaoundé, Cameroon, amid a colorful inauguration ceremony. Recall that Brigadier General Meikano defeated 3 other contestants from Algeria, Kenya, and Guinea-Conakry in a virtual election on October 7 to emerge victorious. Kenan Ima Abudike, NTA News.
The end of the news. Do remember to connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists.